Welcome back, guys. Alright, today I'm going to be ranking every rival from Pokemon, from Gen 1 all the way to Gen 9, not based on personal preference, but based on actual strength determined by their achievements. Trainer A can have 6 Magikarps, and Trainer B can have 6 Legendaries. In this video, Trainer A can be ranked higher. I mean, if you become a champion with 6 Magikarps, if anything, that's way more impressive. I'll be ranking them all based on 5 tiers in descending order. They are Champion, Elite 4, Gym Leader, 8 badges, Gym Challenger. I think this should mostly be self-explanatory, and anything that's unclear should clear up as we get into the video. So let's start from the top with Gen 1's Blue. I think this is pretty clear cut. Blue collected all 8 badges, challenged the Elite 4. That included future champion of the region Lance, and he won, becoming the champion even before the player. He's the strongest trainer in the Gen 1 games and the Gen 3 remakes. After that, he becomes the 8th gym leader, replacing Giovanni, and can only be faced after you obtain the other 15 badges in the game. He's the strongest trainer outside of Red in Gen 2 and in the Let's Go version of the timeline. Even after this, Blue also traveled across the world to different regions like Alola and Unova where you can battle him, and he's referenced in Kalos. Alright, so let's move to Gen 2 and talk about Silver. To preface this portion, I'm sorry people. I know people love Silver and I do too, but his list of achievements is really unclear and not super impressive. So let's get into it. Silver has all 8 gym badges. Maybe. So in Pokemon games where you check those statues at every gym, well usually those statues show every trainer who's defeated the gym leader. In most games, this will show the player and the rival, but not in Gen 2. This is weird because I immediately thought of the scene in Olivine City where Silver walks out of the gym and talks about the gym leader being lame for caring about Pokemon or whatever. So I performed my due diligence and checked every game to see if this was a mistake. And unfortunately, it's possible that it was, because I'm like 95% sure this was messed up in Gen 6. But his name not appearing in Gen 2 and 4 can make sense, since the only reason the player actually knows Silver's name is because he accidentally showed it to them after their first battle. So, since Silver knows you know his name and you told the police, it would make sense that he wouldn't tell the gym leaders. So let's just roll with Silver having all 8 badges but didn't tell them his name. So moving on, after that, he doesn't face the Elite 4. He did get to battle Lance and lose to him earlier in the game. But after you defeat the champion, he also travels to Kanto. You know the story. Silver starts to care about his Pokemon. He learns the error of his ways. I'm pretty confident in his time in Kanto he didn't collect all 8 gym badges though. After this, he returns to Johto and starts training in the Dragon's Den. Finally, you can challenge him inside of the Indigo League building. I'm going to be putting Silver at the top of the gym leader tier. Despite all the training, he's simply in the level range of gym leaders during the gym leader rematches. Levels aren't the end all be all, but there's no achievement to push him over the top and into the Elite 4 tier. Alright, Gen 3, Game Boy Advance time. This is going to be our first game with 2 rival entries on the list. Let's talk about the ones we first meet. Brendan/May. I hope this doesn't come to a surprise to anyone, but they don't have a very impressive resume. They've got 0 badges. Unless you're a speedrunner, these guys aren't a rival you really think about at all. At their best, you fight them after the champion at Oras. This is more of a for fun battle to end the main story than a final challenge for the player. Their levels aren't anywhere near Steven, and they only have 5 Pokemon, with their ace being a level 50. They also don't have any post-game rematches, so I'm putting them in the Gym Challenger tier. Maybe if they tried really hard, they could get all 8 badges, but from what I've seen though, I can't put them that high. So Wally. Now this little guy is kind of a monster in the remakes, but let's hold off on those for a little bit. In the original games, you first meet Wally at Petalburg Gym and you help him catch his first Pokemon. And then in the time it takes for you to get all the badges, he does it all, starting way later. I believe he starts collecting badges after you beat Norman, the 5th gym leader. In Gen 3, he catches up to you at the end of the Victory Road, while in Oras, he's waiting for the player, which is even more impressive. In Gen 3, he has 5 Pokemon and doesn't really match up to the level of the Elite 4. You battle him at the beginning of Victory Road in the remakes and Emerald. He's actually the same level in Emerald despite this, which makes him slightly more impressive in that game. He also can be rematched in Emerald. So let's move on to Oras, where ranking Wally gets really hard. I can't rate him based on battle facilities. Those don't make sense to me. His best team stomps Steven's rematch team. He also appears in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but that doesn't make sense because it's been like years, but he looks exactly the same. And all his Pokemon are in Ultra Balls, even though I literally saw you, Wally, catch that Ralts in a regular Pokeball. Also, when did he have the time to catch a Talonflame and a Garchomp? Like, did he go off-screen go to Kalos? He does have the location marked on his globe in his room. So to give Wally credit, he does go off to other regions. So without ever officially challenging the league, the Elite 4 tier is as high as I'm willing to go. Wally's really damn strong. He states in Ruby and Sapphire that he wants to challenge the league, so go ahead and try. You got it, man. Alright, let's not keep the next rival waiting. Gen 4's Barry. This is the only character I'm going to be talking about from Gen 4. I'm sorry to the Lucas/Don rival fans. So Barry collects all 8 badges, with the final main story battle being just a step before entering the Elite 4. Now after this, in the post game, he alongside the player head to the battle zone where you can face him in the fight area in DP and BDSP, or the survival area in Platinum. In DP and the remakes, he actually loses to Buck, but Barry does not let a loss keep him down apparently. So Barry's final rematch team battle will progressively get harder, with the max coming after beating the Hall of Fame 20 times. In DP and BDSP, he maxes out at an ace of level 74, while in Platinum, his starter caps at 85. He's the strongest trainer in the region, which is his goal, so I'm glad he obtains it in that game. But let's talk about the most recent game now. In BDSP, after 20 entries in the Hall of Fame, his ace is still lower than Volkner's, the strongest gym leader. Honestly, the only game where I value his team after 20 Hall of Fame entries is BDSP, because the games are balanced for that. Usually the most recent game is the strongest iteration of a character, but not in this case, so I'm going to put Barry in the Elite 4 tier right under Wally, since both are in pretty similar situations, but Wally's last appearance is the more impressive out of the two. Alright, let's move on to Gen 5, games that feature simple but charming 3D graphics, but also simple but charming rivals. Let's start with Bianca. She actually has all 8 gym badges. Honestly, I didn't know that till I started researching for this video. Her final battle in the main game happens right before you head to open Lucid City, where she has 4 Pokemon and her ace is level 40. After this, you can face her in the post game with an ace of level 65. After Black and White's main story, she becomes a research assistant for Juniper. You can face her later in Black 2 White 2 due to the Memory Link feature. Her team is exactly the same as the one in Black and White. I'm gonna put her in the 8 badge tier. It's hard to rank her in the gym leader tier since there's no rematches against gym leaders to gauge her against. Also, she basically stops training to become a better trainer and becomes a researcher instead, with her team being the same 2 years later, which you could say that's just because of the Memory Link feature, but I also think it makes sense since she's not focusing as much on battling. So now we got our second rival of Black and White, with Cheren. Finally, we have another trainer who challenged the league, and Cheren beats the Elite 4. Unfortunately for him, he never gets the chance to fight Alder and become champion. So huge points to him for that nonetheless. He's actually lower level than the Elite 4 rematches, with his ace at level 67 in the postgame, while the Elite 4 rematches have all level 73 aces. I don't hold that against him at all since he actually beats them. After Black and White, he goes on to become a gym leader. His ace in that game is also level 67 coincidentally, though that's in a double battle since again, there are no gym leader rematches. However, it's still possible to face Cheren in Driftville City at the World Tournament. But that's kind of battle facility stuff where I think it's more fan service than actually a part of the story. Like, there's no way Giovanni's allowed to just walk in, he's an international criminal. They're not inviting him to that tournament. You can also use the Memory Link feature to battle his Black and White team in this game as well. But it'll be exactly the same as the team you faced in Black and White. Which makes sense because he doesn't use that team anymore, he's a normal type gym leader now. I'm ranking Cheren right above Wally. Actually beating the Elite 4 is a big achievement, worth more than just high levels. So here we are with our third rival for this game. And he's officially our second champion as well. He probably didn't collect all 8 badges, but I'm pretty confident he beats the Elite Four due to what Chantel says in her dialogue before your match with her. He also definitely beats Alder. Alright, so there's this black or white elephant in the room right now, and it's Zekrom or Reshiram. I don't really know how to consider those. I'm not about to be like, they can destroy a continent or a mountain based on like scaling or lore. This is also about how strong of a trainer these characters are. That's not to say getting a legendary isn't impressive. It is, but it's not the end all be all for this list. Also, N gives it to the black 2 white 2 protagonist later. With all this being said, N's still at the top of the list. Even in black 2 white 2, he's a bunch of high level teams with a huge variety of Pokemon. And that's not even including his black and white team that included one of the box art legendaries and a bunch of different high level Unovan Pokemon. He can also talk to Pokemon, so that's worth something in a battle. Probably. Alright, so now we have black 2 white 2's rival, Hugh. His goal was to get a Purloin, and boy did he do it. Good for him. In terms of rival ranking, he got 8 badges, never challenged the league, and he's an ace at level 70 on challenge mode during his rematch. There's again no gym leader rematches in this game. To talk about his character, from his dialogue, I don't think he's even interested in becoming champion, unlike most rivals, and definitely all of the main rivals of the game. You can meet him in Undella Town in the postgame, where he says he's more interested in the Abyssal Ruins than facing off against Cynthia, a champion. I'm gonna put Hugh in the gym leader tier below Silver. Alright, off to the third dimension with Gen 6. So X and Y, there's a lot to be said about these games, but complimenting their rivals isn't something I would really do. But let's start with Calem and Serena. Okay, so this is the gen I mentioned earlier that messed up the statues. So I watched all their dialogue, and from what I've seen, there's no confirmation of them getting any badges. But in the last main story battle, you face them in Victory Road, where they have 5 Pokemon and their ace is level 61. I'm gonna assume that they also did get all 8 badges, but they're strong enough, so it doesn't matter that much. So this game doesn't really have traditional gym leader rematches, or really traditional Elite Four rematches either. You can rematch them in the Battle Chateau with 2 Pokemon for Gym Leader, 3 for Elite Four, and Diantha as 4. This game's pretty barren. Man, I wish X2Y2 didn't get cancelled. Anyways, they do have a post-game battle with 6 Pokemon, including a Mega Absol. I'm just gonna put them in the 8 badge tier right above Bianca, since I have no reason to put these characters any higher. Next up, I got my goodest, bestest friends of all time. Shauna, Tierno, Trevor. 3 for 1 special. So Tierno, he likes dancing. Great. Trevor wants to complete the Pokedex, but he's caught like 6 Pokemon. He's almost there. And he also doesn't know how to use all 6 at once. And Shauna, boy, she was there. None of them could get all 8 badges, so it's Gym Challenger tier for these guys. Shauna, then Trevor, then Tierno. I'm putting Shauna at the top because she just gets the most screen time. That's it. Then Trevor over Tierno because all his Pokemon have moves, which is the most impressive feat any trainer in X and Y could ever achieve. Alright, next up we have Gen 7. With Hugh, who doesn't have badges, but he completed all the trials, which are basically the equivalent for this game. In Sun and Moon in the main story, he battles you right before you enter the league to decide who will challenge it and become the first champion of the region. After you beat the league, he plans to train with Ilima and beat his grandpa Hala, who's an Elite Four member in these games by the way. And then he wants to finally face the player to become champion. He does go on to beat Hala after the credits, and is then a possible opponent in the title defense battle, showing he can beat the Elite Four. He does, however, only have 5 Pokemon in these games. Let's talk about Ultra Sun Ultra Moon, where he's even more impressive and serious. When you fight Gladion before heading up the mountain to go face the Pokemon League, Gladion tells you that Hugh already beat Kahuna Hala, instead of that happening in the post game. So the final battle before becoming champion is a little different in this game as well, with the player facing Hugh in the final battle, very similar to how you face Blue in Gen 1. The difference is the player beat the Elite Four first, And also, neither Hao or the player are officially a champion at that point. In terms of post-game, Hao is the highest levels out of every challenger, including Kukui. In Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, outside of the battle tree, the only trainers stronger are Red and Blue, and he's just barely weaker than Blue level-wise. All of Blue's Pokemon are level 69, while Hao's average level is 68.7, with Hao's Ace being at level 70. There's a bigger level gap between them in Sun and Moon though. And again, levels aren't everything, and these aren't necessarily a one-to-one comparison, as the games might expect you to fight Red and Blue before rematching the Elite Four and fighting Hao again. Another achievement for Hao in the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon games is that he captures an Ultra Beast. He does, however, give it back to the Aether Foundation though. With all of this in consideration, I'm putting Hao at the top of the Elite Four tier. Gladion, the second rival for the Alola games. He also has a legendary Pokemon, but like Type Null and Silvally are pretty normal Pokemon. I don't expect them to blow up the region or eat the sun, for example. He has all the drives though, so he can change them to any type he wants. His final main game battle takes place at the base of Mount Lanakila. In both games, he's got 4 Pokemon. In Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the higher of the 2 games, his aces are level 55. He also faced Hao before this, who presumably beats him. Things go a little differently in the postgame depending on the version. In Sun and Moon, you can face Gladion as a title defense opponent, where he has 5 level 63 Pokemon. While in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Gladion leaves for Kanto and returns with one of the Kanto starters, giving him a full team of 6 and presumably some of the gym badges. Can't confirm that though. He also has a Z-Ring in both versions of this fight, so maybe he went on to do the island trials possibly. I think Gladion goes in the Elite Four tier. He slots in perfectly right below Hao. Alright, next up we have our last Gen 7 rival, the fan favorite, Trace. I'm gonna be unbiased here. I know people hate this guy, but I'm not really one of those people. But I thought I'd preface this beforehand. Trace is the champion of the Indigo League. That's pretty clear cut and dry. His strongest Pokemon is level 67, while Blue and Green's aces are level 68. His accomplishments are the same as Blue's by the end of Gen 1. He also beat Lance, who goes on to be a champion, which is slightly more impressive than Gladion and Hao's Elite Four runs. None of the 3 have been a champion at the end of the Elite Four, so all of them are in the same ballpark. So I know I'm putting Trace above them, but which tier? Champion. Facts are facts, people. Alright, let's jump into our biggest section of the video with Hop. Get it? Alright, Gen 8. He collects all 8 badges, and then you battle Hop second at Winden Stadium. In the post-game, you face him again in the Slumbering Wheel. After that, though, he loses to Shield Word or Sword Word, depending on version. He also lost to Bede during the main story, so not the perfect record you would want. He does bounce back by catching Zacian or Zamazenta, and basically has a final battle where he decides to become a researcher, instead of aiming to become a champion. He then goes to the Isle of Armor and visits Mustard's dojo, and seemingly obtains the Max Soup for his starter. He later appears in the Galarian Star Tournament, which is basically the finale of the Sword and Shield games, that features the region's strongest champions in one tournament. Though he's one of the lower level trainers at the event, being the 6th lowest out of 20. That alongside him focusing less on battling, puts him in the gym leader tier for me. This game doesn't feature an Elite Four, so it's also harder to put someone in that tier. He is higher level than the retired gym leader Opal, and minor league Klara and Avery, so alongside his legendary, gym leader tier makes sense, putting him just above Hugh. Alright, so next up I'll be covering Bede and Marnie at the same time. These characters are both deserving of their own section, but honestly their journeys are pretty similar. Their stories aren't, but in terms of their achievements I would say so. Both characters collect 8 badges and have their final main story battle at Winden Stadium, with Marnie's occurring before Bede's. Then in the postgame, both trainers become gym leaders with the goal of one day beating the player and becoming champion. You can rematch them both in the postgame. Finally, in the Galarian Star Tournament, their levels are identical, and on par with most of the other gym leaders, with some of them out-leveling them. I'm putting both of these two right above Hop, with Bede over Marnie, due to him getting more focus, being faced after Marnie in the ending of the main story, and he's a part of the post-game story. Also, if you don't like that, Fairy is super effective against Dark. Now, Hop actually has 6 Pokemon, while the most Bede and Marnie have is 5. In defense of Bede and Marnie, you face them in the Champion Tournament, where Hop will also only use 5 Pokemon, despite happening after he previously used 6. Also, achievements over teams in this video. Alright, so now we have another 2-person section, Klara and Avery. This one makes a lot of sense to me because they're basically version counterparts to each other. Being your rival during the Isle of Armor, they share the same aces, Galarian Slowbro and Slowking. They become minor league gym leaders and are invited to the Galarian Star Tournament as one of the weaker trainers at the event. They're just not as strong as the other gym leaders. Also, I don't know if they've collected all 8 badges. I'm leaning towards no, but on the bright side, they did train under former champion Mustard. I'm putting them right above Bianca in the 8 badge tier. Yes, she has the badges and they don't, but they're strong enough to do it and are focused on battling more so than she is. Also, I'm putting Avery above Klara purely based on typing. Their roles in the game are technically the exact same. So next up, let's move to Legends Arceus with Ray and Akari. This game features no gym leaders, no Elite Four, no champion. The game takes place during a time where catching a Pokemon is impressive in itself, and battling trainers is uncommon. They have 5 Pokemon with their aces being level 63. I'll be putting them in the Gym Challenger tier, at the top of the tier. I don't think they have the battle experience to get all 8 badges in a region, despite their pretty high levels. Alright, it's Volo time. So this guy cheats. I don't know how to rate him. Is cheating a skill? Maybe it's not cheating if you don't get caught, but this guy doesn't care about getting caught. He's treating straight to my face. Volo is the champion, but his role in the game is basically equivalent to a champion, while also serving as the antagonist in the game and being battled throughout the game like a rival. Pretty similar to the role N fulfills in the Gen 5 games, and also like N, he is a legendary Pokemon. In the case of Volo, he is a Giratina, twice, on top of basically Cynthia's team. He's maybe like a time traveler who will continue on forever until he's able to wield the power of God and use it for himself. So, he's a pretty good work ethic, and that goes a long way. Honestly, Volo vs N is a toss-up. I'm putting N on top because N's had better competition. Both also gave up their legendary Pokemon, which is another similarity they share. I can't put a cheater on top, guys. This is setting a precedent for the future of our country. Alright, we're finally at the present. Gen 9. Let's first talk about Nemona, the champion of the region, stronger than even the top champion. Which sounds weird, but it's more so that the top champion is like the standing champion. Like how after you beat the champion in most games, characters like Cynthia and Lance will still be the champion at the Pokemon League, but you're also a champion. So Nemona really likes to battle, and it paid off. Her goal was to find a trainer where she could actually battle all out against, and she finds that in the player character. Nemona is the strongest trainer in her region, and actually beat a champion. She even went on to collect the badges twice, with 2 teams, though I doubt we'll ever see more of the team she originally took on the league with. I'm putting Nemona above Blue and below Volo. This is subject to change as I expect more Scarlet and Violet DLC to come out, but as of now, this makes sense to me. Having a legendary and wanting to strike down God really puts you at the top of this list. Alright, next up we have our self-proclaimed not very good at battling Arven. So he doesn't really have any achievements with no gym badges to his name. With all that being said, level-wise he's pretty good. He did fight the Titans alongside you during the course of the game. Technically at the moment the only trainers with higher levels are Nemona, Gita, and Penny. This is all subject to change. At the moment, you can only face Arven after beating the gym leader rematches, and the game doesn't have an option to challenge the Elite Four again. So for now, he's going in the 8 badge tier, right below Calem / Serena. Lastly, we have Penny, who doesn't have many battles in the game, but I'll consider her a rival since she's the counterpart to Arven and Nemona for the Operation Starfall storyline. Penny's the leader of the evil team of this game, and the final battle for her storyline. Penny outlevels Hassel of the Elite Four in the Ace Academy tournament. I'm not going to overdo it since she has no badges, so I'm going to settle for the top of the gym leader tier. I might be underrating Penny, but I could really easily see myself putting her in the tier above, depending on what happens in the future of Scarlet and Violet. Alright, we did it. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave a comment if you would change anything about the rankings, or if I made any mistakes. Please subscribe, you could be the first. That's pretty exciting, right? Well, later guys.